in psychology, there's something sort of like there's a concept I can talk about the sense of self, the sense of an identity, and I think it's interesting because there isn't too much research done on this subject. But when it comes to the internet, sort of multiple senses of self sort of come and develop. Who you are online isn't usually who you are in real life. And likewise, your sense of self can change through any sort of incidents or traumas, I guess. You guys probably know me as primusprime22. But as you see in the channel name of pretty much everything, there have been some changes to the channel, and I thought we'd take a moment to sort of sit in the therapist couch and just sort of talk about what was primusprime22 and sort of who am I today, what made me what I am today, and where are we going in the future. I'll also preface this with the information that I'm sick, so if I don't seem full of energy or my voice sounds a bit weird, that's because I'm sick. This is also my second time I've tried to record this video today, so yeah. There are primarily two senses of self when it comes to me. Me, as in like insert my real name here sense of self, and the sense of the identity of primusprime22. But it's not exactly a typical relationship of an online-offline persona. primusprime22 is really an identity and a persona that developed, that sort of transcended online and offline. So when I talk about primusprime22, I'm pretty much talking about myself from about summer of 2015 up until about, a few days ago. While the concept of myself as insert my real name here was from my birth to, I guess, summer of 2015, and then with a pause up until today. And we'll talk about that later. But the sense of self of primusprime22 was sort of created as an aftershock of a very traumatic summer of 2015. A lot of bad stuff in my life happened then, and for the sake of, I'm typically open about a lot of stuff in my life, but, that sort of area I won't really get into much, but it is sort of a defining moment in my life. Very few people really know about that sort of time period or how I felt, Ultrox and Twisted, they have an idea, but I had a terrible summer. It was bad. It involved Europe, which is weird. It sounds weird. It sounds like some sort of out of context comical type thing, but it wasn't really comical. But let's see. Pretty much after that terrible summer, my sense of self kind of shattered. The person I was throughout high school, because that's really where you develop your sense of self in high school, but it was just shattered after it. So from that point on, me as a person was really gone, and in its place was primusprime22. I can't exactly put my finger on what the difference is between primusprime22 and my sort of real self, but it definitely feels different to be one over the other. And I'm not talking about me using the username primusprime22. I've been using the username since I was in kindergarten, but I never really used the internet as much until when you get to know me as primusprime22. So, primusprime22, after that summer, really didn't have anything. Didn't have too many friends, didn't really have a support group. I was sort of just floating alone, I guess. Didn't help that it was just after graduation, either. And going to college, all those transitionary stuff. Now, I am naturally, and I really mean naturally as in it's in my genes, prone to depression and anxiety, and prone to it in waves. But looking back on it, primusprime22 was a one long, consistent wave of some sort of depression. There was fluctuations, but for the most part, yeah, it was one level of depression. For the first few months, I guess, as the identity of primusprime22, before I even really took the username to heart, as a broken shell, I guess. I really didn't do anything with my life. I didn't do anything. Up until a Transformers convention, and I was kind of a fan of Transformers. And I went to the convention, and for the first time since the traumatic summer, that Transformers convention, I was in a community of people who had similar I guess, interest just in Transformers. But just being in that community really changed primusprime22's outlook on everything, and he sort of came to the decision of, wow, this is finally a community. I feel more at home, I guess, even though I really didn't. And I want to give back to this community, so I decided I'd really adapt Transformers as part of my identity. And I'd make Transformers lore. I'd make a series, and I'd make stuff about Transformers for this community, which I had sort of felt had adopted me into their home. Not long after that, in October of 2015, I believe, you have my return to YouTube. There are 3 stages of primusprime22, the YouTube channel. The first stage is stop motions I did for Transformers, because again, I was a Transformers fan back in like middle school. Those are privated now. The second phase was in 2014, where I just experimented a bit with some games. Those are public, but that was just for a short time. The third phase began October 2015, and that's when I made my debut, began playing around with the YouTube concept, and sort of thought, I'll make some Transformers stuff, and eventually I did get around to making Transformers lore. That whole phase was really just me trying to find some sort of identity, I guess, some sort of home. My very persona, my very avatar had a Optimus Prime head. And, by the way, a lot of people misunderstood that avatar as it being Optimus Prime in like an Admiral uniform. The Optimus Prime thing's supposed to be a mask, you know. It's not supposed to be an actual head. The dude was supposed to have organic human hands, though that didn't really translate into the fan art at all. It was around that time that I later on joined, still in my search for some sort of community, some sort of family, I guess, I found the Lazy Koalas. I was looking around for people to collaborate with. I thought, I have to build up a network of, supportive people to feel like I'm not in this alone. And I found on Reddit a post by Lays about the Lazy Koalas, and I sort of applied, tried to put my best foot forward. And then Primus Prime eventually ended up joining the Lazy Koalas. And it was great, but it was still pretty soon after the summer of 2015. That's the big shattering point. And I'm sorry I'm not going into the details about that, but all you need to know is it was a, I guess, sort of traumatizing time in my life. And it left an impact, especially psychologically. Especially in the context of dealing with people. Until the Lazy Koalas, I really didn't deal with people. I didn't talk to people. I didn't have much human contact. I think by that point I had started college, and I had not talked to anybody ever at the university. And even at, I did Transformers stuff, but I didn't really have a following, so I didn't really talk to any commenters. I didn't really talk to people at the convention. It was just sort of this energy of being surrounded by people I felt in a community with. The Lazy Koalas was really the first hurdle as far as me dealing with people-to-people, person-to-person contact. And though I enjoyed being part of the Lazy Koalas then, I loved it, it just, psychologically and mentally, I was not ready for it. I found myself being vulnerable, very defensive, very easy to crack, and once I crack, I went aggressive. That's sort of an aftershock of, the summer of 2015. And we never really talked, it's never really been talked about sort of in public. But there was that time period where I was I left the Lazy Koalas. And that was because it just really wasn't psychologically ready to be actually part of a community again. I hadn't developed a full sense of trust, hadn't developed a full sense of how you're supposed to talk to people, and ultimately I just cracked. And I realized that after cracking, I'm not ready for this yet. What I did was I left the Lazy Koalas, and they were great. They have the right to be a lot less chill with me, we can say it like that. So, they're great people. But yeah, I left the Lazy Koalas, ultimately decided, okay, I realized, that was about the time where I realized, well, I'm broken. So I just need to focus, I need to work harder. And again, this was all during sort of a depressive phase. And one of the things you try to do when you're in such a long depressive phase is to try to get your mind off of life by just doing something, some sort of hobby. And for me, that was making videos. And that's when I decided I'll try to make the best videos I can, but I kept doing, Transformers lore videos. Because I still didn't have the confidence that I was able to develop a community, really help myself if I was alone, if I tried to do original content. Nobody would listen. And, you get hate comments all the time, and like, oh wow, I get these hate comments on this Transformers stuff, but how would I feel if they're hate comments on like my actual stuff, on stuff that matters to me, on personal matters, stuff like that? And it's just a lot of very careful consideration in retrospect that I did when I was doing Transformers lore. Eventually, I did get better at social communication, and eventually I did, try to rejoin the Lazy Koalas, and lo and behold, they let me back in, which is amazing in of itself. But I was back with my community. Am I even recording this? Okay, thank God. I was back with the community, and then just sort of really developing those friendships. I was starting to develop confidence back, confidence I hadn't had since 2015. And I ultimately decided, well, you know what, who cares if I have who cares about the Transformers community? I need to try to be myself. And that's when you slowly see the transition into, hashtag make primusprime22, primusprime22 again, where we have ultimately it all led up to the abandoning of Transformers stuff. But of course, I still kept the name primusprime22. My very avatar still had the Optimus Prime head on it. So even though I stopped making Transformers stuff, psychologically, there still was some sort of unhealthy attachment. It wasn't until a few days ago that I got the chance to go to Europe, and remember, this all began with Europe, and it sounds weird out of context, I know, but there's only so much I can say about it. And just being in Europe, and this is the first time I really traveled outside of the Carolinas, being in Europe was sort of a therapeutic, it was the final nail in the coffin, I guess. It was the final phase of me going back to who I was before 2015. It was the final phase of me stopping being primusprime22 and going back to being insert my real name here. And now I'm back from that trip and a little sick. Yeah, I'm back from the trip and I realize, it's hard to say, Europe changed me. I know that's the cliche line of, oh, traveling changed me. But something about being where it all started, I guess, kind of helped me, what's the word? Just helped me heal, And so I won't say I guess technically I changed, but it's not like I changed forward, I changed back to who I used to be. And I think it's just time to change. I think it's time to change primusprime22. I don't want to see any attachment to that Transformers era. So I decided to go through with rebranding, and that's how we got here today, with the death of primusprime22. So that brings us to the update section of this video. Who am I now? What are we doing? What's the plan, Stan? Well, we can start with a name change. Commander Radix. And I wanted to have a sort of leadership title. Leadership has been a big thing in my life, back from my high school days. Primus Prime was, if you take the Transformer meaning of it, it means like leader of God. Or God leader. If you take Primus is Latin for first or best, I believe. So I wanted to have the, officer rank commander. And then Radix, which is Latin for root, or sort of like the base of which things come from. And since I've sort of came back to being my old self, instead of, this severely depressed primusprime22 stage, I thought, I'd have the Latin word for root, Radix. And it sounds cool. So we have Commander Radix. I know a lot of people will probably call me Primus, whatever. I won't bother to correct them, but it's Radix now. I know, isn't it weird when people change their name? This is like when Sky Does Minecraft became Net Nobody, or Digibrony became Digibro, although he just got rid of, what, 2 letters? I know Commander Radix is a long name, just like primusprime22. I also got rid of numbers because numbers are apparently, allegedly, not good for the algorithm of YouTube or whatever. But so Radix is a good short name, like Primus was a good short name for Primus Prime. So the avatar. I wanted to keep with... I really like the military uniform plus full head helmet type deal. So there's the helmet. It has purple eyes, a purple visor. I dropped the blue from the purple and blue Primus color scheme and replaced it with black. So we have a purple and black color scheme here now. The uniform, as you can tell, is a sort of SS uniform, a Nazi uniform. I deliberated on this for a long while of what I wanted to do. My favorite military uniforms are the sort of SS Nazi uniforms. I am not a Nazi. Let's make that very clear. I'm not a Nazi, I'm not a National Socialist. I don't want to round up Jews and put them in camps. I am edgy, however, and I will make jokes about that stuff, and I figured if people are going to be put off by a Nazi-ish uniform as my avatar, then they probably didn't belong at the channel anyway. So yeah. I also smudged out the SS ranks and the swastika. I filled that with black, because even then, I'm not comfortable with an avatar that has Nazi memorabilia on it. But after going through the censorship phase, I guess, of my own avatar, I just really like the design of the uniform. So that's it. Don't read into it any more than what's actually there. It's just I like the uniform. I know this avatar will probably give me a lot of flack from this point on in the future. I don't care. I censored it. What do you want? We still have the rising sun in the background. We changed its position, because previously you had Cybertron serving as the sun, and obviously I didn't want Cybertron in the new profile pic. So I changed the setting so that the sun's behind Commander Radix, and it's coming from behind him. Also added a little saturation in a vignette, just to sort of change the tone, I guess. But that's the name and aesthetic changes. I hope you guys like it. It's something new, something less transformery, which I think is definitely a good step in the right direction. But now let's talk about content. I might not seem it now because I'm sick, but back to my old self, I'm a lot more passionate and a lot more creative than primusprime22 ever was. A lot more confident too. But I'd expect... I don't know, I expect my upcoming videos to be maybe some of the best I've ever made. Hopefully. I hope I meet that standard. But there's going to be 3 veins of Commander Radix content. Commander Radix, this channel, used to be primusprime22. Content's going to be pretty much the same as usual. And we'll be continuing series like Battlefield 1942 and the Dreadcore Fallout stuff. It's not like we're just going to ignore primusprime22. That stuff happened. There's a lot of good stuff in the primusprime22 channel. Let's see. Primus Academy is going to stay called Primus Academy. Stay being called Primus Academy. Just because, 1, I think Primus Academy sounds cool. 2, I already made the intro infographic. I'm not gonna change that. I think Primus Academy might be the only place where you'll still see the primusprime22 avatar, just because I cover more serious topics on Primus Academy, and I might not want to have an avatar that wears a Nazi-based uniform when I talk about something like the Holocaust. That might be... Primus Academy is like the only channel I'm going to be sensitive about this stuff on. There's a new channel, in the links in the description. Go to that channel and subscribe to it. It is called The Commander's Cabin. And what that is, it's heavily inspired by Digibro After Dark. Where basically, it's just where I rant. Whenever I have anything I want to talk about, I'll just get a camera, record it, upload it. Very few edits. Don't expect a masterpiece here. These are just going to be short opinion pieces. Well, they're just going to be unedited opinion pieces. And they're supposed to be rolling out fast. I want to have I don't have a schedule, but I want uploads to be frequently on that channel. There is kind of a drive here to make as much content as I can, as well as the best content that I can. So just sort of keep an eye out. I have a lot of ambitions now that I'm back to my old self and I'm more confident in what I think I can do. So I have a lot of ambitions here, and just stick around if you want to see me shine, I guess. The partnership with the Lazy Koalas is still ongoing. Discord server still the old Discord server. Twitter and Twitch are all Twitter, Twitch, maybe Tumblr. I'm still not sure about Tumblr, man. I might abandon the Tumblr. We'll see. But Twitter and Twitch, they should have been changed and updated by now. So make sure to follow me there. The Cuckoo Universe, I'm planning on releasing what I haven't released yet of the Cuckoo Universe all at once. All of the final stories are going to be released, and then we're going to be on a weekly schedule of new stories, because I want to continue my writing, remember. And I'll say this to the Transformers crowd, whoever's still here. My one thing with keeping Transformers lore videos up on my channel is that they say primusprime22. And I didn't want all my advertisement of primusprime22 on those videos bringing Transformer fans to primusprime22. I changed my name, which might mean I'm considering re-uploading old Transformers lore videos on the Transformers lore channel, which I am not going to acknowledge exists from this point on. But for those of you interested in that, that might come back. Primus Prime Time obviously won't be called Primus Prime Time. It's going to be called Radio Radix. Episode count is going to continue on from Primus Prime Time. So basically Primus Prime Time goes into episode 7, then Radio Radix starts at episode 8. I know I liked my alliteration, and there's things like Primus Pix that I don't know how I'm gonna make a Radix equivalent of it, but whatever. Radix Pix, I guess, is still gonna be happening. I'm sick right now. You might not see a lot of energy right now and in the near future. But once I'm better, we're going to be hitting the ground running, guys. It's going to be insane. Look, I really wish I wasn't sick right now so you could probably see the energy I have right now. But the fact is, I am sick and I'm making a video. That doesn't typically happen. So that's some sort of energy expenditure there. Do I have anything else to say? I don't think I do. Thank you guys for watching. Even though this seems like a big change, changing the name and avatar and everything, it isn't as big of a change as when I stopped making Transformers lore videos. It's more of a change in my personal life that I just sort of want to commemorate on this channel as well. But thank you guys for watching for this update video and retrospective. Keep an eye out on the channel. If you're new here, subscribe if you have not yet. See ya, losers.